Good afternoon and welcome to Kunsang Payal Choi. We're really happy to have you here, and we've got a video from a past teaching by Jetsama Akamano. This teaching was given in 2005, and the title is Your Most Precious Investment is the Guru. So we begin.
Now, on the path of Vajrayana, we are given something like a rocket ship rather than a slow boat to cross the ocean of samsara. When Lord Buddha first came to the planet and taught, when he was there as Shakyamuni, he gave teachings that were absolutely necessary for that time. During that time, we were not in Kali Yuga, which is a more degenerate age. During that time, it was easier to practice. It was easier even to speak Dharma. And people's minds were more spacious and more expanded, so that if one were to accomplish Dharma, it would be more easy to accomplish Dharma during that time. And yet, there was a difficulty. And the difficulty was that during that time, because there was more space in the mind, there was also more relaxation, maybe more joyfulness, less reason to feel compelled to exit samsara. And so there are good and bad things in both times. True that this is Kali Yuga, true that this is the time of degeneration. There are many false teachers and many false paths, and sometimes delusion rises up like a tsunami flood, and it is a difficult time. We look to the people that even guide this country, and you wonder where's the clarity, where is the morality? And so it's difficult, even this country that was once the prince of countries and can still be the peacemaker, the one who guards the little guy. Instead, now we've changed. So these are all indicative of the time of delusion. And yet, at the same time, we are so pressed as not only our delusion, but because of our delusion, our neuroses, which means an inappropriate response to something that is not understood well anyway. Our neuroses also thickens and deepens. And with that comes an increase in pain. Fundamental pain, maybe not even a particular pain about something, but rather an all-pervasive sense of suffering, that we are more unhappy, really. Now when things are happening faster and materialism is in some ways more attainable, in many ways more attainable, still we have become more and more unhappy and continually create causes for unhappiness. So this pushes us to find a solution. And for some people, we look to psychology or psychiatry, and for other people, we look towards creating the causes for happiness through walking the path of spirituality. But many of us are seeking, and that's important. That is something that's useful and to be treasured during this time. Now, for many of us, we'll think, well, what drives us to seek is this pain, this angst, this modern angst that we all seem to carry around. That pain, on the one hand, is sometimes unbearable, and then other times there, and we're uncomfortable, and we can't say exactly why. We feel wobbly, unguided, unknowing, and we really can't understand why that is. That suffering, of course, even though painful, can ultimately become part of the blessing that brings us to the path. Because for many of us, it's just, maybe we didn't even come here thinking, what I need is a good path. Maybe we came for some other reason, because we heard about this place, or we've heard a little bit, or we read some books about Dharma, or maybe His Holiness the Dalai Lama has given us some wonderful teaching through his books, and something has just hooked us a little bit. Maybe we heard about the crystals. That brings people. What it is, it's that sense of things not being wholesome or right. It's that sense of fundamental unhappiness that drives us forward. And so in the beginning, that's how it feels. It can be a very poignant kind of search, and we feel deeply moved by it. So when we begin to examine the path of Vajrayana, we find that rather than being a gentle ship that crosses very, relatively, I should say, gentle ocean, as in the time of Lord Buddha's life, physical life, now we have a different situation. We are propelled by the depth of our feeling, by our discomfort, and we're looking for something, and we seem to, in this time, to connect with something that is more potent, maybe a little fiercer in a certain way, more condensed, definitely, the original teachings of Lord Buddha. The original teachings of Lord Buddha taught us to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Distinguishing between the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and ordinary phenomena, samsaric phenomena. And that we use that idea of taking refuge in what is wholesome and what arises straight from the Buddha nature. We take refuge in this Buddha nature as represented by the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And that starts us on a path of discrimination, where we can see what to accept and what to reject, what is wholesome, what arises from enlightenment, from the mind of enlightenment, as Dharma does, and therefore results in the fruit of enlightenment. In other words, the seed arises from enlightenment, and the fruit is also then enlightenment. So we are learning to discriminate by taking refuge. We see that we can take refuge in the Buddha and the Buddha's method, the Dharma, and the Buddha's body, which is the Sangha, instead of what we used to take refuge in, which was, who knows, sports or ice skating, watching TV or having 3 cars or 12 houses or whatever people find their particular desire is in samsara. Now we're beginning to understand that where we took refuge in things of desire, now we are taking refuge in something that doesn't give immediate gratification, in the way that getting a new car, say, would. Get a new car, you feel good for about 6 months. So good. You get Dharma, maybe you won't feel good for about 6 months. But then you start to feel better. And you begin to realize that you are creating the causes for continued happiness. And we begin that addition, well, the car wasn't a cause for happiness. In fact, nothing I've ever bought or had has ever been a real cause for happiness. The condition of my mind, now that can be a cause for happiness. If I learn to accept something and to reject others and to live a more wholesome life and to get a flavor of what it is to live in purity with uncompromised intentions. Slowly we begin to notice, I'm feeling better. We also begin to notice that when it's not all about me, that kind of self-absorption, and rather we are really taking refuge in the Buddha's wisdom, the Buddha's enlightenment, the Buddha's compassionate and amazing intention. And it's not all about me and what I want. And our mantra has changed from gimme, gimme, gimme to maybe Om Mani Padme Hum, or the Guru mantra, or even just the pure intention, practice Dharma. So little by little we began to move on the path. But now in this time and in this age, we have something quite special. And this is the time of the ripening of the blessing of Guru Rinpoche. In fact, most of Guru Rinpoche's teachings that were hidden as terma or treasure during the time of his life have been revealed to come due or to be potent now. They are meant for this time that is very condensed and very degenerate, where people are really lost, and our cultures even are lost, and our governments and power holders are lost. During this time when it's hard to find even a rice grain size of truth, of clarity, and of compassion most of all. During that time, here it is that Guru Rinpoche's precious teachings come ripe in the form of terma revealed. In every cycle of terma revelation, bar none, Guru Rinpoche made it clear that most important was to practice Guru Yoga. Guru Yoga becomes to us the very sustenance on the path. When we practice Ngondro, one of the most important sections of Ngondro is the Guru Yoga. It's beautiful. The cries to Guru Rinpoche are plaintive and haunting, and would just moving. How can you describe it any other way? The Lama can know. And yet, in the Ngondro book, Guru Yoga is at the last. I know when I started practicing Ngondro, I asked for special permission to practice the Guru Yoga first, and I was given that because of my special connection with Guru Rinpoche in the past. And to me, it was the most beautiful and pure and worthwhile time I've ever spent. For most people, we want to start with the taking refuge and the bodhicitta. And the reason why, again, is because the first need is to discriminate between what is extraordinary and what is ordinary. We cannot really practice Guru Yoga effectively unless we've made that discrimination. Because if we can't make that discrimination, we're basically practicing to a cartoon image that we do not have the depth yet to understand. Or maybe we are practicing on a personality level, that my personality is worshiping the Guru's personality. And that's a baby step. It's not to be sneezed at. It's not where we stay either. We go further than that. When we practice Guru Yoga, that's the rocket ship of Tantric Buddhism. That's the shortcut. The luckiest practitioners on the path of Vajrayana are those who feel, doesn't mean they have to display it in any outward way or even see their guru that often, but who feel they have and who have cultivated a special connection with their teacher. A connection not persona to persona, but one of recognition. That connection of recognition, and that is where we go to our teachers and we say, or we go in our practice and we visualize our teachers and say, I understand that this is the very nature of enlightenment. That this is the same nature as Guru Rinpoche. That this is the same nature as all the Buddhas of the 10 directions. That this Buddha, this teacher that I have, has been taught to me by Guru Rinpoche to be the Buddha in Nirmanakaya form. And that we think like that, that kind of recognition, that kind of intention, and a kind of, I hate to use the word passion because people think of passion in only a certain category, but one develops a passion for the nectar that one's teacher has to offer. That person is ripe. That person is ripe not only to enter the path, but blessed in such a way that not only will they continue, but very likely they will find completion stage practice as well. Because when we connect with our teacher in that way and really give rise to that recognition, that sense that indeed this is exactly what Guru Rinpoche promised. Guru Rinpoche said, I will be there with you as your root teacher. If you call to me, I will be there. And so, of course, he's saying that in the presence of one's root guru, having been given the blessings, now we practice Guru Yoga, and that is the very nectar of Guru Rinpoche's blessing. How fortunate for those of us that have that sense, even in some small form, enough to where, like an ember, you can fan the flame. That's the most fortunate connection of all. Many people, when they go to the path, they do feel a connection with some particular deity. I know of one person that felt a very strong connection to Manjushri with his great sword, cutting through ignorance. And yet that person did not practice proper Guru Yoga and understand that the nature that Manjushri with the sword is the very nature that is our root guru, and that sword could be a word, a look, a piece of advice, some heart teaching, anything that cuts through the darkness of ignorance. Some of us can understand that, and others of us want to have our particular deity, and you hear the pride in that, don't you? I'm into Manjushri. He's the guy with the big sword. What a guy. And yet, every Buddha that we can visualize, all of the peaceful and wrathful deities that naturally appear in the Bard are part of our own nature and can be recognized. Each one of them has the complete and perfect qualities of all the Buddhas. So while it's an amazing thing if you are attracted to some particular Buddha, like maybe Amitabha or Chenrezig or Tara, you might say, oh, I really love that deity. That's good. Cultivate that. Do not miss the step that Guru Rinpoche gave to us when he said, this nature, the nature of one's teacher, is unsurpassed by the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. Why did he say that? To create confusion so that everyone in all our different places could look at our own particular root guru and say, that's the best one? No, that's crazy. That's just more ordinary thinking. But instead, by implication, we understand that what we must do is to recognize the intrinsic nature that appears as our root guru, the promise of Guru Rinpoche fulfilled. And if Guru Rinpoche said this was going to work, well, it's going to work. So, Guru Yoga is like a rocket ship. We depend on the accomplishment, the qualities, and the nature that appears as our own root guru. Early on in the relationship with our root teacher, we should practice thoughtful discrimination. That is to say, we should ask ourselves, has this teacher really given rise to the great bodhicitta? Do we see that bodhicitta is present here? Okay, check that box. Got that one. Okay, so do we see that this teacher has the capacity to ripen my mind? Do I hear Dharma from this teacher? Check that one. Is this teacher considered qualified by peers of her lineage, his lineage, their lineage, whichever? Is this teacher properly recognized and considered properly an authority and a throne holder? Does this teacher have good qualities? Does this teacher have the ability to communicate? Let's see, what else? Does this teacher have an unbroken chain that connects us to the source of the blessing, which is Guru Rinpoche? You betcha. So once we think through these things, and at that time, if you decide this teacher is not for me, then there is no harm in saying, I'll keep looking. Maybe the connection is not quite right. So that's when you do your discriminating and your thinking. But once you've decided, check boxes are all full. Looks good to me. And I have that feeling. I feel that connection. Something is wiggling in my little heart chakra. So when we come to that place, after that point, you must put yourself on a diet, because after that, there's no more judgment. Once we make the judgment and the discrimination necessary and undeniable sense that one has entered the path and met one's root guru, after that point, judgment should be put aside. Then the ball is in your court. Not that the teacher doesn't have a responsibility. I promise you, the teacher knows their responsibility if they're worth their weight in salt. And that teacher not only knows their responsibility, but also knows their students. A good teacher will be willing to say to a student, keep looking. Go see this Lama here or that Lama there. See what you think. Once the teacher has accepted the student, and the student has accepted the teacher, then that bond becomes more intimate than any marriage, any mother and child relationship, any friendship. Hard to understand that because we think, oh, teacher, I only see you every so often, but I see my spouse and my children every day, therefore it must be more intimate. However, I will tell you that in order for you to be here, to be accepted as my student, and to accept me as well, for that karma to mesh in that particular way, we must have known each other many times. many times. And the relationship between student and teacher is not a relationship that ends in one lifetime. If we take vows together, I am responsible for you always. And so long as you remain in the world and have not yet accomplished liberation, I must appear again in samsara in order to liberate you. I must, even if there's only one, just you. Your teacher will return for you under any conditions. Likewise, when the student accepts the teacher, they must honor that vow, and they must make a similar vow in their own way. That vow is contained in the 7-line prayer. Following you, I will practice. Even though the prayer is directly to Guru Rinpoche, the prayer has an inner, outer, and secret level of meaning. So we recite it thinking of Guru Rinpoche on a lotus and having the intention, hopefully, to understand that even though this appears as Guru Rinpoche on the lotus, it is inseparable from our own root gurus. Same nature, same taste, same essence, same uncontrived primordial essence. And so when we recite the prayer to Guru Rinpoche, the 7-line prayer, every time we recite it, we reconfirm that entire process, recognizing that Guru Rinpoche was the one that came from Urgyen, that he was born on a lotus in an extraordinary way. This is like our saying, I understand that this is not ordinary. I understand that this did not happen as ordinary births, as ordinary conditions happen. And so having understood that, I also promise to follow and to practice. And then we ask for the Guru's blessing. Guru Padma Siddhi Hung. Guru Padma, grant me your blessings. So there is so much condensed into the power of that little prayer that make you say again and again. There's so much. One can go so deeply with just that one prayer. One can move through the stages of recognition, depth that we didn't think we could ever reach. One can create that connection by reciting again and again and again. Following you, I will practice. Following you, I will practice. And so those meaningful words, even though they are simple, we can understand them more deeply and more deeply and more deeply. Following you, I will practice. What does it even mean? Does it mean I dress like Guru Rinpoche, or I act like Guru Rinpoche, or do I wear some of his funny earrings, or what do I do? I've got some funny earrings on, by the way. Not it. Following you, I will practice. First, we practice the way Guru Rinpoche practiced. For the sake of sentient beings. That's how Guru Rinpoche practiced. He came and was born into the world for no reason other than to benefit beings. He didn't have to come and learn. He didn't have to come and hang out. Like Lord Buddha himself, he didn't have to come and learn or hang out. And yet he came for the benefit of sentient beings. And so that's the way in which we promise to practice. throughout, not only throughout this prayer, throughout this hour that I'm practicing, but throughout this day, throughout this week, throughout this month, throughout the year, throughout all my lifetimes. May I follow the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and liberate beings. We're talking here about liberating beings from suffering. This is what Guru Rinpoche did. Yes, he taught. Yes, he hid termas. Yes, he gave us the method. But the intention was about liberating sentient beings. Following you, therefore, I will practice. And so that's our commitment. We take on this tremendous commitment, this tremendous opportunity to liberate beings from the clutches and the ravages of samsara. And that means we'll live the week like that, the month like that, the year like that, the decade like that, our lives like that. And we will and at the time of our death, we will make prayers to be reborn following Guru Rinpoche. And in our next life, we are reborn again to continue and to benefit beings. This is the method, this is the way, this is the powerhouse. We rely on this promise, this blessing. When we meet with our Guru should have the capacity to ripen one's mind. And particularly where there is a close connection, where one has practiced under the guidance of this Guru before. That's happened to me with many of you, where I see you and I just know you instantly. And I know you start crying, and you know me as well. And you can't deny that. When that happens, it's just undeniable. And for those fortunate students where that happens, often they wish to even short-circuit the discrimination part because the feeling is so strong, the bond is so deep that the recognition is prevalent. If that should happen to you, here or anywhere else, that is the most precious jewel you will ever find in this world. Whether you are gathering wealth or gathering intellectual knowledge or whatever you were taught is precious in this world, that connection with that Guru is the most precious jewel you will ever find. First, it's an indication. You have practiced with this teacher before. Maybe an ordinary way of saying it would be, when you see this teacher, you should see the feast laid out before you. The feast. And you know, I have tasted this before. When you it's almost like in an ordinary way. If you go to a giant smorgasbord, one of those places that people in America, when they really want to chow down, and you see the roast beef and the this and the that and the cobbler and all, and you go, bingo, I'm in the right place. And you eat some of that and you remember. It's like remembering that taste in your next life. Nothing's going to keep you from chowing down. You may be even a little weird about it at first. But really emotional and so forth. But nothing is going to keep you from that taste. If you have ever had that experience, I beg you to honor it. Not for my sake, but for yours. That happened to me in this lifetime when I met His Holiness Pena Rinpoche. I knew it was like my heart jumped out of my chest and was standing there talking to me. And like I met my mind, my nature, like I was following something elusive my whole life, and suddenly it was standing before me. Almost unbearable. And of course I did the same exact thing that you guys do when you meet your root teacher. You start dancing. Inside you start thinking, what should I do? I should do this and I should do that. I'll perform maybe that way or maybe this way. And of course you're a stumbling fool for a little while, just like somebody who's newly in love. If you find that connection, then you must honor it. And you must honor it by growing. Be ready. Some people say, oh, I really want to fall in love. But then when love hits you, you go, nah, I don't want to change that much. It's a little scary here. Back off. And so sometimes we're like that when we meet, in a sense, our destiny, our unfoldment. When we meet our teacher, we go, oh, oh, oh. You know, when we start, we feel the joy, we feel the connection, yet at the same hand, we're like, I can hardly bear it. I have to turn away a little bit. It's too much. I don't know if I can change that fast. But remember, the original reason for making the connection to the path was to exit samsara. And that requires a good deal of change. So the relationship between oneself and one's guru should be potent. And it's okay if it's a little scary. Gives you a little respect. Yeah, my teacher still, in Payul, my teacher, His Holiness Pena Rinpoche, you all know him, is known as having rather wrathful moments. And I've met with a couple of them. And I still flinch. But that's okay, because it gets my attention. But ultimately, we come to understand that there is no friend like Guru. Nobody in one's life, nobody in our lives, even if they take care of you and feed you and clothe you until the time of your death, is so willing and so eager to look out for your welfare. Our root gurus are more interested in our well-being than we can understand. I personally can tell you that I had a difficult time with that. I was an American. I mean, I know that I had all this old karma with the path, and I was recognized as this one and that one and the other one and all that, but I was still a 38-year-old American. Yes, I was 38 when I met him. So I was an old dog with old habits. And I have to tell you that I didn't understand that kind of love at first. I mean, I understood that I felt this commitment to my students, even though I had not met with the Buddhist teachers yet. I already had students, and I understood the commitment to them, and I understood, my teacher told me that apparently I was teaching Buddha Dharma, and I didn't know it, because I hadn't read any books on it. But then, when I actually met him, and he became so intimately involved in my body, speech, and mind, my whole life, began to circumambulate my guru. I thought, what is this? I mean, I've never seen love like this. I've never seen anything like this. That this Lama would come all the way across the world to find me. That he came all the way from India, and the first thing he said when he hit California was, take me to that woman in Maryland. And so, that's how it happened. I didn't understand that every year he wanted to see me. And so I missed some years. I didn't understand how much he is invested in my well-being and the well-being of my students. I didn't understand when he built that place up in New York. Now I understand that he built it for us. Because I can teach you during the year what I have to give you, the ripening and the deepening. And then you can receive empowerment and take the next steps on the path with His Holiness, my root teacher. So after we established this place here, he did that. I didn't understand that, but now I do. I've never had that kind of love in this lifetime. I don't know anyone else that has either. The kind of love that let me explain to you what His Holiness was here in last year. One of his particularly devoted and very close disciples passed on, Kunzang Lama. And His Holiness just abruptly left, even though he knew he wouldn't make it in time. Just left for that one man. I know, and when he got there, Kunzang had left him a note, and the note said, "Guru, wherever you are with me and I am with you. Please do not grieve." Like that. Can you imagine? They were so close. They came out of Tibet together. That kind of devotion to each other. And so now I understand, and I want to pass on to you the tremendous commitment and the passion and the purity of that kind of love and devotion that continues from lifetime to lifetime. We have children, we have those that we love, but can we honestly say to them, "I will follow you into your next life and make sure you're okay"? No, you can't do that. If you're lucky, you'll go before your children. And then what? And the ones that you love and care for, can you protect them into the next life? So that is the condition of samsara, that we are all just tumbling around like bees in a bottle. At some point, bees know each other meet up. And when that happens, and it happens to be one's guru, this is the connection that is most precious. We should understand that if we feel that connection and that it's heartfelt, that is like a diamond that you should invest. To hold on to it and to keep it stagnant is not the way. To say, "I've got this connection, therefore I'm in like flint." One has to take that connection and build on it. You have to use it for investment. You use that connection to create more virtue through learning the Buddha Dharma and practicing accordingly, through going to the teacher for guidance and advice, and then practicing that accordingly. There's no use going to the teacher for guidance and advice if you don't practice accordingly. Then you're simply cashing in that diamond for nothing. You're throwing it out the window. And it's too precious to waste. Instead, again, you should invest on it, build on it. That's cash. That's money in the bank. That's the most precious thing you own in this lifetime, no matter how wealthy you are. So you go to that teacher for guidance, for advice. You allow that teacher and ask for that teacher to open and prepare your mind and to deepen the mind and to mature the mind. And you depend on that teacher similarly to, let's say, if you had somehow a cash cow in the bank, a diamond or some fabulous thing that could be earning interest. In the same way that that diamond might be the nugget and maybe you're living off the interest. You think like that. But you're always making the moves and doing the things that never harms the principle and only increases the interest. See what I'm saying? I'm using a funny money analogy here, but it's like that. That diamond must be kept in a sacred place, enthroned upon the lotus of one's heart, where it cannot be harmed. And if you find that that diamond is somehow misplaced and it's in your mouth and you're talking about it in a non-virtuous way, get it back down there again. Do your practice. Recite the 7-line prayer. Reestablish that connection. Think that it lives in you, as it does. And then how do we use the Guru Yoga as this rocket ship? How do we understand the way it is used that way? Well, first of all, if we look at the Guru Yoga in our Ngundro book, the prayers are achingly beautiful. The tune, Lama Keno, that beautiful tune, you can almost hear it being sung on misty mountaintops. There's something about it that's just so haunting. And you get the idea when you're doing this practice that it's kind of geared that way. It's geared to bring tears to one's eyes. It's geared to create an interdependent relationship that's so intimate, it's more than what we are accustomed to. We wouldn't take an ordinary relationship and sing, boyfriend can know, girlfriend can know. We wouldn't do that. And why? Because there wouldn't be any result. You might as well twiddle your thumbs. There just simply would be no benefit. And yet we are given this method, and it should cause us some benefit. Why? Why is that? Because we are, again, opening the eyes of recognition. And what is it Lord Buddha said when he was asked how it was he was different? He said, I am awake. Awake in recognition. We are opening the inner eyes of recognition to understand the difference between the precious connection with one's root guru, the ultimate nature that we share, that we depend upon utterly, between that and what is ordinary, the stuff we get lost in so easily. We have this single pointedness that we can whip ourselves back to. That's how we use the guru. When we get lost and wobbly, and we're kind of out in space, you know how we get, in our particular, the noises in our head and everything. If we get lost in that, we can use the guru as our centering. Back to that. We think this is none other than Guru Rinpoche, the second emanation of Lord Buddha himself. This is the way. This is that nature. This is what is precious. And so the Lama gives us not only a way to have single-pointed concentration, but the Lama also offers their own accomplishment. When one practices the Guru Yoga really deeply, whether it be in the Guru Yoga in Ngundro or Shower of Blessings, or in any of the pujas that have Guru Rinpoche as the main focal point, or Guru Rinpoche and consort with the main focal point, we should think that this is the way to practice Guru Yoga, and in each of those practices, whichever it is, we understand non-dual nature. That's what we're working on. We see the arising from the nature of emptiness appearing in a real but insubstantial gossamer-like light form, first as the seed syllable, and then as the guru. We are telling ourselves our own story because it is us also that have arisen from emptiness. It is our nature that is indeed also the seed syllable. And ultimately, we are the same nature as the guru. And by the power of the guru's accomplishment, through their many lifetimes of amazing practice, many lifetimes of looking out after sentient beings and accomplishing the needs of sentient beings and liberating sentient beings, they offer that. They offer themselves and their accomplishment in that way to be the very door to liberation. And so we should think of our teachers in that way, that we are in a burning house. No other way to get out except that one door. Boy, would you ever be devoted to that door. That door would be on your mind. If your house were burning and there were no other way to get out, wouldn't it? That door would be. And that's how we should think. We should think that here we are in samsara, this indeed the time of Kali Yuga. We have at best as many habitual tendencies guaranteed to bring us suffering as we do to bring us happiness. At best, 50-50. And that is so not usual. We tend to make ourselves more unhappy than we do happy. So we are in this burning house, and we look to the teacher to provide the door to liberation. And so when we give rise to that devotion, it's not to the person guru. It's not to that person. So it doesn't matter if you like what they're wearing or how they smell or what they look like or how they walk or anything like that. It doesn't matter. That's just the stuff you do in regular life. So you can just sweep it over. Instead, you think this one has appeared and will appear throughout time out of mind until all suffering has ended, until samsara is emptied as the door to liberation. What kind of dope am I that I wouldn't walk through it? It's that kind of fervent regard. Think of it that way. More than like, dislike, that kind of judgment, but rather fervent regard. And we rely on the accomplishment of our teachers. If our teachers had not accomplished any Dharma, how would they be of any use to us? But we come back, there's my friend. If this teacher can bother to appear again and again for no reason other than to liberate sentient beings, as my guru has, then I can at least be here. I can at least come halfway, come full with devotion. When we are in the presence of our own root guru and we have that connection and we have the history and karma of the guru having ripened our mind in some way in the past, that ripening will surely come again. With faith and devotion and practice, it will surely come again. And so we have that kind of faith. We know in our hearts and our minds that we can rely on this one for that kind of help. Should it happen that we cannot meet with the guru for some way, or for some reason, or there is some difficult point in one's path, some difficult moments, some difficult times, maybe even some difficult months or years, still, so long as the guru remains in the world, we can turn our face towards the guru and know. It's like falling off a horse, you can always get back on. But the problem is, and there is a problem with that, is that if you waste your time with that precious jewel and don't collect its interest, the jewel somehow becomes more distant, less potent, less present, less precious, less everything. And we think to ourselves, why is the guru not in my life so much? And we tend to think, oh, the guru's over here, or the guru's over there, or the guru is not speaking right now, or the guru is this, or the guru is that. And you can think that way if you want to, but it won't help. We must think, now I've come to this place. I have chosen my guru and I am steadfast. And I have seen the door of liberation. Yet somehow things are a little mixed up here. I can't quite get to it. I don't feel focused. I don't feel like I understand this blessing. I feel outsourced. I feel like I'm out to lunch somewhere on the path here. And so we think, oh, what is the problem? Well, the first thing we have to do is correct our view and think, this is the door to liberation. It is present in the world. Period. End of story. What must I do? What must I do? And sometimes it takes traveling to see your guru. Sometimes it takes sitting down and doing guru yoga like you never did it before. And it can work out a myriad of ways according to one's karma, according to one's blessing. I've had it both ways. I've traveled to see my guru, and the blessing was immeasurable and phenomenal. And then I've stayed home and practiced guru yoga, and with amazing signs. The blessing was amazing and fundamentally life-changing. And in one I saw the guru's face, and in one I saw the guru's face. And that's the nature of this blessing. It doesn't depend on time and space. It doesn't depend on ordinary things at all. And unless you neglect it, it cannot lose its potency. We must think, as attaining to Guru Yoga, that every day, even while now we sit in comfort and enjoy being together, that every day, even this day, we should earn the blessing to see the Guru tomorrow. How will I see the Guru? Maybe I'll see the Guru's picture and it will jump out at me and touch my heart. Maybe I'll see Guru Rinpoche's picture and it will jump out at me and touch my heart. Or maybe I'll say the 7-line prayer and wow, that one did it. Or maybe I will do my practice and it feels deep and rewarding, like an underground stream that has come suddenly to the surface and has given us something precious to drink. Guru Yoga can always be depended on to reestablish and continue the blessing. I promise you, if we call out to the Guru with full heart, with determination, and with fervent regard and recognition, the Guru will respond. Whether it's in the way that you would like, which is, hi, I'm here for lunch, or whatever. It may not be that way. It may be something quite different. Sometimes it's not something that feels good right away. Like I've seen one of my favorite students works herself to death and forgets to practice sometimes, and then periodically does things like break her back or, injure herself in some way. And then she practices and amazing things happen. I wish she wouldn't do it that way, but she does. You know who I'm talking about out in Sedona. And I have other students that kind of orchestrate separation and return in order for that feeling of return. But I wish they wouldn't do that. That feeling of separation often comes with some cause and effect relationship. And again, if it were my diamond, I'd be shining it up all the time. I'd be collecting that interest all the time. We use Guru Yoga that way to create the causes for continuation on the path. The teacher should never be frightening. The teacher is your friend. Your friend who will take your hand and walk you lifetime after lifetime. Even when you stumble and you fall, something will arise through the devotion that you practice in this lifetime to protect you even in your next life. And so eventually we come to the place where we see everything as the blessing of the Guru. Everything. That sometimes we feel some confusion, and maybe even confusion for a long time. But you know that that Guru would not let you down. You know that. And so you count on that, even the confusion, to be a blessing. And eventually, because of that devotion, the confusion will clear and the Guru will appear. Again, like an underground spring coming once again to the surface. Guru Yoga is the most potent of all practices. And it's the most simple. One can practice Guru Yoga simply by visualizing the Guru above the crown of one's head and making offerings in a visualization way, and then receiving the blessing real quick, like the one from the Guru's mind, from the Guru's body to your body, and it does come in the head, white to white. The red blessing from the Guru's speech, from the throat to your throat. Blessing from the Guru's mind, which is the heart, from his heart to your heart, or her heart. And you can receive that blessing constantly. It's free. It's yours. You can receive it periodically. You can receive it every morning, every night, whatever you want, as much as you want. That's the beauty of Guru Yoga. And you should think that the Guru is like your constant companion. Not in a creepy way. I don't want you guys looking in my window. But in a wholesome way, where we understand that this nature is freely given, like method that one can use. It is indistinguishable from the ground, which is full enlightenment, the method, which is Dharma, and the result, which is the completion or accomplishment of the precious awakened state. So we understand the Guru is the ground, the Guru is the method, the Guru is the result. And we begin to mix through the devotion, through calling out our own nature, our own mind, our own qualities, willingly, with that of the Guru. And over time, that blessing mixes like milk with water. And we understand that indeed, Lord Buddha resides in us all. We understand that indeed, each one of us is some uncontrived, beginningless, and yet fundamentally complete, luminous nature. Some state of awakened and yet uncontrived view that we are that in our nature. And our job in this lifetime is to use the blessings of our gurus, to use their accomplishment, their qualities, their methods, to listen carefully and accordingly accomplish awakening to that nature. It's the swift way, it's the rocket ship. It's powered because it's like lighting something at both ends. You're not thinking, oh, I have to there. We are thinking, this is like a mirror and a mirror. Inseparable in their nature. And I know here we have pop psychology, I'd like to mention. Here in America, we have a lot of pop psychology. And we all have these little boxes about how relationships ought to be. And pop psychology has told us how big they ought to be and what shape they ought to be in. And we are told we should be independent in certain ways, and then sharing in other ways, and then, one way or another way, we are told how we ought to be. I want to tell you that the relationship of Guru Yoga is not like that. For instance, in relationships we are taught, I'm okay, you're okay. What is it? Don't be codependent. So don't be in a codependent relationship. Well, if you're going to be in a codependent relationship, I guess it ought to be with your guru. But you don't look at it that way, because a codependent relationship is where two people who are ill or not seeing clearly or deluded or neurotic in some way are being neurotic together, and it fits. Well, that's not the same with one's own root guru. You can freely and openly give your whole heart. Know that you are not in danger. You can freely and joyfully walk, dance through that door of liberation, and you will be happily and joyfully received. You can depend utterly and completely on the three precious jewels and the condensed essence, which is the root guru, and never fall. This is the one time you should not guard your heart. A difficult habit to break for all of us. So, again, we're not talking about personalities because that's ordinary. We're not talking about you guys coming to live all at my house and we'll all be, not like that. That's ordinary context. We are thinking that the blessing of my teacher resides as me, in me, and I am that. And like we say in the 7-line prayer, following you, I will practice. Through that devotion, through that practice, all the blessings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are yours, freely given. To the deserving student, to the practicing student, the Guru will always appear. And we should always today be creating the causes for the Guru to appear tomorrow. In whatever form. So, I guess that's it for today. I'll give you something to think about. And I hope when I give teachings like this, I hope that you will really take them in. Don't bar the way. Let them come in. And if you are moved to go recite the 7-line prayer and open your heart and feel that blessing, then I ask you please to fill up. Don't deny yourself. We've done that for too long. Instead, welcome to the banquet of Dharma and the yummy good food of Guru Yoga. I invite you to partake. So thank you for coming today. I'm very grateful for your presence.
So thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you who made it to our new time, which I think we're going to stay right here. It's going to be at 1 o'clock on Sundays. And we also do show these teachings Wednesdays at 7:30, and they are then archived on YouTube. So you can find them as you will and watch them again if you wish. we're always glad to have you here joining, and we're also always glad to share KPC with everyone. The prayer room is open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, and the grounds are open from dawn to dusk. So you always have a place to come and find refuge and find, some peace and harmony, which I think we all need a bit of, especially in these times. In addition to the teachings by Jetsama now, Khenpo Karze is offering teachings on the twice a month, actually, like every other Saturdays, offering teachings on Saturdays primarily, and he's alternating teachings to the ordained and teachings to the general public. So, and then the fourth Wednesday at 7:30, instead of having a teaching by Jetsama, we'll have a teaching by Q&A session by Khenpo Karze. So that will be for everyone. And we're offering these by subscription. You can go onto tara.org and just do a search for Khenpo Karze, and in the blogs there you'll find a way to connect in and sign up for the teachings. So all good, and we're working on it. This is a work in progress, kind of a new way to set these things up, but we're hoping that it works out. And in any case, in addition, then there's always a lot of different things happening here. Meditation on YouTube and in person on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. Medicine Buddhas on Facebook. The Drum Circle that was at 4 p.m. last year has now been changed to, I want to say, 11:30 on Sundays. And then we have also at 4 p.m. on Sunday, a soak outside at the Go Rinpoche statue, which is also where the Drum Circle is. So there, that will be out there today, I believe, at 4 p.m. And that's where I know we are right this minute. We've been moving these times around, trying to get everybody happy. And so hopefully we'll be sitting right there. But 4 p.m. seems like a good time. We're moving into the warmer weather, and that gives us quite a bit more shade that we can use to stay cool. So anyway, join us today. It will be outside, and it will be on Zoom. You can go on the calendar on tara.org and find that Zoom, and it will be, that's where you'll find us. It's, anyway, it's there. Enjoy. And before I get too drifty, I just want to say thank you so much again. If you're interested in making an offering to Jetsama directly, you can do so through her PayPal account, which is jetsamagift@gmail.com. And if you're interested in helping out with KPC Buddhist Relief, which is providing a whole lot of food and clothing and household items for immigrants and for people who are homeless and have needed such things, and just people in our area who are really in need, please, there's a page on tara.org, and you can also go to KPC Buddhist Relief itself and find a lot of information there and ways to join in if you want to volunteer. We can also use help carrying all of this food back and forth to these places. So, yeah, lots we can do to be helpful and to make all of our paths better toward liberation. So thanks again. See you Wednesday, and if not before, have a wonderful week.